Throughout NBA history, we have seen hundreds and hundreds of fights. Players get into arguments and sometimes they begin to throw hands. On November 19th, 2004, there was a fight that involved players, coaches, and fans. And one player was suspended 86 games, which was the longest suspension in NBA history. What's going on, basketball fans? My name is Josh and I'm back with a brand new video. Now in this video, I'm talking about the longest suspension ever, not the longest ban ever. Several players have been banned from the NBA like OJ Mayo or the Birdman, but in this video, I'll simply be talking about the longest suspension ever. Sounds good? Let's get into it. When you think of the scariest or most intimidating players in NBA history, one of the first that come to mind is Ron Artest, or Meta World Peace. Ron was drafted in the first round of the 1999 NBA draft by the Chicago Bulls, and he was a solid NBA player from the time that he came into the league. A couple years later, he was traded to the Indiana Pacers, but he was the same great player. He would make an all-star team and was named the Defensive Player of the Year in the 2004 NBA season. The only issue was, Ron Artest was a hothead. He'd always get involved in altercations on and off the court. That leads me to November 9th, 2004, where one of the most iconic moments in all of sports occurred, the Malice at the Palace. The defending NBA champion Pistons were facing off against the Indiana Pacers. The Pacers held the lead for the entire game, and with 45.9 seconds left, a fight broke out. Ben Wallace was fouled hard by Ron Artest. Wallace got up and shoved him. When you have Ben Wallace and Ron Artest going at it in a fight, you know something bad is going to happen. There was an altercation between a ton of the players, and Artest tried to get out of the way, so he decided to lay down on the scorer's table. But a fan in the crowd threw a drink at Ron Artest, and that was the turning point. Artest got up, he was pissed, and looked right into the crowd. He decided to jump into the audience and began fighting with Pistons fans. And before you knew it, several players were fighting both on the court and in the crowd. It was the first time something like this had ever happened. It was a bad sight to say the least. The game was called off, and several police officers were called onto the court to help mediate the fight. But even then, these players were going at each other, ripping jerseys, coaches tried to intervene, and it took a long time before the fight was finally resolved. The brawl led to 9 players being suspended for a total of 146 games, and it all centered around Ron Artest, whose foul on Ben Wallace escalated into a brawl between players and fans. Artest received the longest suspension in NBA history, and deservingly so. He was suspended the remainder of the season, which included 73 games in the regular season and 13 games in the playoffs. 73 plus 13 is 86. Ron Artest was suspended 86 games. Ron lost more than an entire season worth of games, and it was bad for a player who was playing so well. He was a player who had just entered the prime of his career, he had just won the Defensive Player of the Year, he had just made the All-Star team, and now he was suspended for an entire season.
It was a time, it happened. You know, it was something that you wish it didn't happen because you lost a lot of money, but you put yourself in the situation. Anybody put themselves in a situation, you know, they probably would have done the same thing. It was unfortunate, but
what do you think really triggered it going over the top the way it did? Because fights happen.
What do you think triggered it? I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know either. If you don't know, I don't know.
If you don't know, I don't know.
If you don't know, I don't know.
Right, because then even the fans started getting involved in it and everything.
You know, it was. If nobody knows what happened, then I don't know what happened. I ain't gonna lie.
But Artest made a comeback after this. He would do a great job bouncing back from the suspension. He would later play for the Kings and the Rockets before he ended up in LA. He would end up winning a championship with the Lakers in 2010. And the funny thing was, the first person that he thanked after he won was his therapist for keeping him cool, calm, and controlled. Ron Artest would eventually change his name to Meta World Peace and was a much more calm player later on in his career. But that's the story of the longest suspension in NBA history by Ron Artest, 86 games missed. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you guys hit that like button, also hit that subscribe button. We are closing in on 30,000 subscribers, so make sure you guys hit that sub button. But till next time, peace.
Say please.
And I know they really wish we would pause.
till we fall. I'm the